Hey, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And this is episode 343.
Yeah, it is.
Welcome back to another week and another episode. It's been a funny old week and a funny old few days for the obvious reasons. So Adam and I were talking a little bit before we started recording, and if any of our listeners are from the Ukraine or Ukrainian and stuff, our heart goes out to you. Of course, it's a bit of a crap situation for you guys. So so we are definitely thinking of you. Absolutely, we've said that a few times throughout the last week as this has all been going on. And like I said, Adam and I had a wee chat beforehand, and I hope in some way that the podcast provides a little bit of an escape for you for an hour or so and takes your mind off of things. So to the country of Ukraine and all Ukrainians and stuff, then we wish you all the best. We really do. And our heart definitely goes out to you at a minute. So yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. So if you are joining us from wherever you are in the world and whatever's going on, it is so good to have you here and to talk about Doctor Who and take your mind off of everything and hear us waffle nonsense about said Doctor Who for a little while. And it is
pure nonsense.
Pure nonsense, yeah. And it is episode 343. So last week, I hope you had your headphones on as you listened to a couple of eps that went out. So we had our last episode, 342, where we're going through Torchwood. And that was Miracle Day. And then on Monday of this week, actually not last week, we had our February round table, which is very fun to record. And we're getting some good feedback on that, actually. A lot of people saying, I love the round tables and stuff. So yes.
They are good fun. Yeah.
So we're going to keep those rolling. We decided for 2022, we're going to do those monthly. So look out for the next one in March. God knows what we're going to talk about for that one in March, but be entertaining nonetheless.
We can always find something, I'm sure.
Oh, yes.
To waffle on about.
Well, if certain media outlets and tabloids can scrape the barrel with pretty much anything, I'm sure we can dish up anything. We might talk about a guy that was an extra back in 1979 that was on screen for a second, and we'll make up some story. Sell it to the papers, whatever. We'll find something.
Yeah.
Before we crack on with what Adam and I have been up to and some other little funny bits that have been going on in the world of Who, remember to follow this podcast in your preferred podcast app of choice. We release a new episode every Friday, so make sure you're following or subscribing, whatever the call to action is within your Apple platform. We'd love to have you as a subscriber. And if you've just found the podcast, if you're new to the TARDIS, then welcome. It's great to have you here. And if you're a long-time listener, one of the Grizzled Ancients, it's great to have you here as well.
The Grizzled Ancients.
Remember that we have a ton of stuff over on the website, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. Over there, you can listen to all of the apps on there as well for free, and you can link off to the various social networks. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We chat Doctor Who throughout the week, so come and get involved over there. And we also have a free Discord server. Again, the link is in the website. Hop over there and chat Doctor Who with plenty of other cool Who fans. We had a few people jump into the server over the last week, so welcome to you guys in the Discord. And lastly, our amazing writing team who joined us on the round table this week. They're the guys that put out the very cool reviews and articles and stuff on the website as well. So, to go and check them out. And also, please remember, don't forget to check out Adam's channel over on YouTube, which is, of course, The Geek's Handbag.
Geek's Handbag, yeah. Go and check out my vids. Lots of Doctor Who vids. I've got so many unfinished vids at the minute, mate. I'm finding it very hard to get motivated, but if anybody fancies editing my videos, or if anything were, God forbid, to happen to me, they're all in the Geeks vault. Somebody dig them out and finish them, because there's some. I'm looking through the other day, and I've recorded some really good stuff, and I really must knuckle down and edit it. Not boasting, but like, you know, some good location stuff and things. So yeah, I need to get on with it.
Yeah, you
I'm
do.
not a big fan of editing though, but I always love it when I get a new video out. So go and check out all my vids, and I'm on all the socials like Insta and Twitter and all that.
Under the same name.
Good job.
The Geek's Handbag. Go and stalk him.
The Geek's Handbag. Yeah.
Yes. What have you been up to, bud? Anything Doctor Who-y? I don't think you have. You've been away. You've been travelling, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in Paris for a couple of days, and I managed to make it a bit of Doctor Who-y, as of course I would, because, I mean, I think the last time I was there was about 4 or 5 years ago, and I did a video visiting all the locations used in City of Death, which was great fun. And I particularly wanted to find the chateau where, you know, there's that famous picture of Tom Baker doing the hand pose outside this sort of archway with these doors, and it was a nightmare because it was so busy. It was a Chanel shop at the time, but the doors were there, so we were very close to it. We were sort of walking towards Notre Dame, and I said, let's pop by and see, you know, just as we're there. And I was horrified to find that the doors had gone, but I think hopefully temporarily. So it's all been cleaned up, and it's not Chanel anymore. It's I think they're either turning it into apartments or a hotel or something. So the outside looks really clean, but then the doors are gone, and it's just boarded up, and it looked a real mess. It looked like a sort of building site. So I got a picture out the front of it again. But hopefully, yeah, I'm hoping the doors have just gone away to be cleaned up or repainted or something, because I'd hate to think they're gone for good. But yeah, so I managed to fit in a few Doctor Who locations while I was in Paris and stuff, the Eiffel Tower and all that. But I was looking at my Twitter feed line while I was over there, and because I was aware that I was missing London Film and Comic Con, which I've been in two minds about going to for ages now. And I must admit, even though I was having a great time in Paris, I was slightly gutted to have missed out, actually. I saw, because Jodie and Mandip were there, and I saw loads of great pics on my timeline of those guys. And I was absolutely amazed that Jodie didn't have a screen, you see. This is one of the reasons I thought, when I got the chance to go to Paris, got a really good deal, I thought, but it does mean I'm going to miss LFCC, but I'm pretty sure Jodie's going to have a screen because she's pregnant now, and I don't want to pay £75 for a screen pick and all that sort of thing. So when I saw the pictures and she didn't, and she's really huggy with everyone and everything, yeah, there's a little bit of jealousy crept in there. I was like, oh my goodness, because I'm not the biggest Jodie fan, but I like her, you know, I like her as a person, and she is the Doctor at the end of the day. So yeah, but the pictures I saw from LFCC were really cool. On the downside, I am seeing so many people that went to it have got COVID. Like my timeline on Twitter yesterday was just filled with friends and people I follow just posting pictures of COVID kits with double lines saying, oh no, you know, there's a couple of friends, for example, that got a Doctor Who BFI event this weekend for Revelation of the Daleks. And already there's like 4 or 5 of my friends that were going to go that can't go because they were at LFCC and they've tested positive for COVID. And I'm like, oh dear. So, yeah, that's a bit of a downside. So on that sense, I'm glad I wasn't there. But it looked like a cool event, and it looked like they're finally... I've never done an MCM. I know MCM often have props, like they had the Rick and Morty UFO and things you can have photos with for free. And me and you have always said, you know, LFCC don't seem to make much effort when it comes to the actual show. It's all about just guests and queuing up for autos. There's never much there. And they're getting better. And I saw they had a giant dinosaur at this one. I saw lots of people having this picture of this giant dinosaur, which looked really cool. So maybe they're starting to get their act together and stuff. But yeah, pictures from LSCC, mate, they look very cool. Were you sad to miss it? I mean, you were sort of thinking of going at one point. We both were, weren't we? We were like, oh, should we? Shall we? Who have they got? I mean, Richard E. Grant was there. He was somebody else. I would have loved to have got a picture of Richard E. Grant. So there were some good guests at this one. But yeah, were you sad not to be there when you saw the pics being uploaded?
Yeah, kind of. Because we were,
well, not too
yeah,
bold.
we were umming and ahhing, and I thought, yeah, shall we, shan't we? And so in one way, it would have been very cool to grab a picture with Jodie and stuff. That would have been very cool. But at the same time, I'm glad that I don't have COVID. So that's every cloud,
yeah.
I think, is the way to look at it.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I worked out that I think there was 3 people I wanted to meet, which is Jodie Mandip and Richard E. Grant. And I worked out if I met those 3 people with travel and then sort of food and drink and stuff, I was going to be spending about 200 and 250 quid just for that. Yeah. So if I didn't get anything else, any autos, nothing, just for 3 photos and a train ticket up there and stuff, it would be about 200, 250 pounds. So obviously I was then was offered some cheap tickets to Paris. I thought, this is costing me nowhere near that. So do I go to Paris for like literally half the cost? Or do I go and get 3 photographs? And you know, it's the thing. This is what being Doctor Who fans like, because even though, as I said, I had a great time in Paris, there was part of me that thought, I wish I'd gone now when I saw the pics. But it is crazy money, and I think, you know, you've got to be prepared to dish the cash if you go to something like LFCC. So in that sense, I'm glad, because I definitely, you know, saved some money there. But yeah, the whole COVID thing as well. Yeah,
there is that, and we say it quite frequently, and we've said it over the years, that when you and I first met, actually, way back when, and we went to the odd convention here and there. I think we went to like the very, very early LFCC and Collectomania and Milton Keynes, and some of those events over at the Copthorne Hotel in Slough.
Oh, they were good fun.
You've got to be, because it's not like that back then. It was making me sound very old. I'm aware of that. It's like, you know, I went into town with a tenner, bought lunch and still had me bus fare, you know, I'm not sounding like that, but back then it was like you walked into these things for free, or it was, you know, £5 at the most. And you could spend 100 quid, and that, you know, that'd get you in, that'd get you a couple of pics, that'd get you a couple of bits of merch and a burger. It was all good. But now it's like, if you know, listener, if you're thinking of nipping along to any of these things, then great, but just be prepared for the costs to mount up if you do want to have, even if you don't have photo shoots, but you want to get a few autographs and a very quick meet with somebody. You do that, you've got your ticket, got your travel, a bit of lunch. It does mount up. So yeah, it's not cheap being a fan of insert franchise here, Doctor Who, Star Wars, whatever. It's not cheap.
Yeah, that's right.
But congrats to people that did get along though and got your pick with Jodie. You just hope that you didn't get the lurgy and you haven't got the 2 lines on your test kit. So, but yeah, surprised you didn't have some more restrictions in place. But that's, you know, I don't want to sound too negative about LFCC and Showmasters, but I get the feeling that once the government said you don't need a face mask anymore, they would have just opened the floodgates. And
I was going to say, a friend of mine pointed that out. He was like, because another friend that I'm in a group chat with lives in America. They just had Gallifrey 1, which looked like a cool event, but they had screens, I think, for almost everybody. I think there were 1 or 2 that didn't. I think Sacha Dhawan was one that didn't, but most of the guests over there had a black drape with a screen in the middle. And he was a bit peeved when he saw our pictures, because he's like, God, they're so much better. Like, I can't believe you don't have screens over there. And we were like, well, they have, but they obviously didn't at this one. And I think because the government have just completely obliterated all the rules over here, they've all gone. So we don't, you know, I think Showmasters have just taken that with both arms and said, okay, so we don't have to do anything now. We don't, you know, which is good in a way for those that want photos, but bad in a way for the fact that COVID has obviously spread around LFCC like wildfire. But, you know, I mean, everyone's really happy with their pics, but they're sat at home with COVID. So it's a real
double-edged sword, isn't it? Yeah.
Double-edged sword. But yeah, the government have completely relaxed all the rules here. So, of course, Showmasters are going to go with it.
Yeah. And I get the feeling, and I don't want this to turn into a bit of a, throwing any shade at Showmasters, but...
No, because we love going to their stuff.
Exactly.
But
yeah, it's great. But I do get the feeling that sometimes the show me the money train of thought outweighs the other things. So in the past, when we've been, there was one year that we went to LFCC in the summer, the big one in July, and I think it was, what are we now, 2022? I think it was like 2018, something like that. And it was a real big one. It was the one where they announced pretty much everybody from modern Doctor Who.
Oh, every Doctor.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they had all the classic Doctors there. They even had Eccleston, Tennant, remember? And
yeah, it was a big one. Yeah, Eccleston's first.
Yeah, and they had loads of people from Doctor Who and loads of people from Star Wars and The Walking Dead at the time and stuff. It was a massive one. And obviously it was sold out. And we were there and we saw people queuing around the block in the beating hot sun. It was a really hot day and weekend. And then while we were in there, and we were up on that top mezzanine section because we were queuing for pics with various doctors and stuff, I'm 99% sure, dude, that place was well over capacity.
It was rammed.
Yeah, there were times where you literally couldn't move. And there's no fire exits up on that top section there. So if there was a fire drill or, God forbid a fire was to break out, there's no way you're getting out of that place if you're on the top floor anytime soon. It was literally like you couldn't eat. You had to queue. You had to queue and wait to go up and down the stairs. Because
those stairs as well are really rickety, aren't they?
Terrible.
I'm not exaggerating, am I? Those blooming staircases, you feel like they're going to collapse just with 10 people on them. I hate going up them.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. So, like I said, I don't want to go down that road of, throwing any aspersions towards those guys at Showmasters, because they do put on a good event. I just wish they would look at a bigger venue and somewhere a bit more. I say this every year. Every year I moan about it and it never happens. But
yeah.
Anyways, yeah, it's those of you that had turned up to the spring one, thumbs up for the old pick. Just hope you didn't get the COVID. And those of you that did, that'll learn you.
Let's hope it's mild.
Exactly. On all seriousness, yeah, let's hope it's mild and nothing happens. Right, shall we jump into the TARDIS and do a bit of news, bud?
Yeah, go for it.
The tabloids, eh?
What they got this time?
I love them. So Mail Online, which is the online version of the Daily Mail newspaper here in the UK, have said that an insider, this is really weird because they're kind of
an insider.
They're in cahoots with The Sun. So a TV insider told The Sun newspaper that the BBC wants something unique to mark 6 decades of Doctor Who. And while getting all the former Time Lords together will be a challenge, it's one Russell might just achieve. Now, I can tell you off the bat, so that's the headline takeaway, is that apparently an insider has told the papers that the BBC and Russell are keen to get as many Doctors back for the 60th to do that kind of celebration. Now, you and I know, and probably lots of other Who fans know, that this is complete BS just straight off the bat. Because we all know, we've covered this story for years now, since you and I have been doing this podcast, I think. And that some of it is achievable, I think. But in a nutshell, they want to get David Tennant, Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, and Christopher Eccleston all back for the 60th. Now, I think it's a safe bet that absolutely David Tennant and Peter Capaldi would come back. I think that's
actually Capaldi. I don't think, I'll tell you why in a minute.
Okay.
I don't think Capaldi would.
I'll tell you why. We'll get onto that because I think there's a reason why I think he would. But I think Capaldi and Tennant for me would do it. I think Matt Smith probably would. But I think he's like David Tennant. He's so busy. It might be one of those, scheduling conflict, that kind of thing. But the thing that is just weird is that we know 100% that Eccleston can't even mention Russell's name without his face contorting into some kind of maniacal supervillain. So the fact that this is all going on, I mean, Russell would absolutely say, yeah, I'm up for doing this, guys, but I'm 99% sure that Eccleston's not going to do it. Because if you think about the lack of enthusiasm that Eccleston had for the TV series while Russell wasn't here, now that Russell's back and the problem was Russell, I really can't see. I mean, unless something drastically changes over the next few weeks, I don't know, because I guess they're going to have to start filming this like now. like getting the ball rolling now. Because when is the 60th? It's later on in the year, right? It's what, September? October? Something like that?
Yeah, but so it'd be next year. Yeah,
exactly.
Next
so
year.
they've got
November,
September or something like that, plus however many months between now and then. So you've got a year plus 4 months. That's not a lot of time to get a big celebratory, that sort of thing off the ground and rocking and rolling, because it needs to be written for a start. So I guess Russell needs to know which doctors are coming back and committed to it, and all that stuff. And then you've got to do all that in between all the other series, with the new Doctor and everything. So anyway, that's what I think. I think there are a few doctors that would be up for this. And but I'm interested to hear your reason why Capaldi, you think he wouldn't be up for it.
I just think out of those 4 doctors, I think the only 2 that I could see really wanting to do it and possibly coming back if they could do the scheduling would be David and Matt. I think those 2 would be well up for it. Eccleston, for the reasons you just mentioned, we know he had problems with Russell. I think he's out 100%. Capaldi, the reason I say I don't think he would do it, although he's a massive fan of the show and he was a great doctor, I feel there's a bit of bad blood there. Whenever I've seen him in interviews since he left, and just the general feeling I get from Capaldi is that I honestly believe he felt like he was pushed from the role. There's something with Capaldi, I can't put my finger on it. When I've seen him in interviews, he's quite dismissive of ever returning, and he's not the kind of guy that sort of says stuff like that just to be coy. Oh, maybe I'll come back. Capaldi's quite straight and down the line. He's got that Scottish to the pointness about him, and he's just very honestly said, no, I'm not in. I wouldn't come back. And I feel like there's something that's riled Capaldi about his exit. It's just, I could be completely wrong. It's just the feeling I get from seeing interviews with him since he left, and I don't think he's up for coming back. I just don't get that vibe from him. But I could be completely wrong, and I'd love to see all 4 of them back, obviously. But I think the 2 that I think are most likely are Matt and David, because I think they had a ball doing the 50th as well. Those 2 seem to really get on well off screen as well as on, and I can totally see them coming back to do it, but who knows? Yeah. But Eccleston, no way. That's never going to happen, I don't think. If it did, I'd be absolutely amazed. And I do hold out just a glimmer of hope, just because he does have a track record of backtracking, doesn't he?
A little bit.
I'm never doing conventions. Chris, do you want to do LFCC? I'll go on then. I'm never doing Big Finish. Chris, do you want to do Big Finish? I'll go on then. So, never say never. He's quite practical, Chris. To him, it's a job. And if he feels like he wants to do it for some reason, he might, but can't see it. Yeah,
no, I tend to agree with that dude on Eccleston for sure. It would be some kind of, I have no idea how that would be resolved, really, because we still don't know the exact details. We know that, I think it was at a convention last year, or the year before, Eccleston was quizzed about it, and he did open up a little bit and say it was Russell that I had the falling out with, because we all played guessing games up to that point. Was it Julie Gardner? Was it somebody else? But yeah, it turns out it was Russell that he had a bit of a tiff with. So until those 2 can sort that out, this is never going to happen, is it? It's just going to be a rumour. But I think the reason why I thought Capaldi would be up for it is because I think, in contrast to what you're saying around some interviews where he's been like a bit dismissive, the only 2 interviews I can remember him doing is the first one that was on, I can't remember what it was, but he was saying that he loved being the Doctor and all that stuff. And then the second interview that I heard was, I think he was on the radio with Zoe Ball, Radio 2.
Oh, yes. Like I remember that.
And he started crying.
Really emotional, Yeah,
and he was... So for me, that's probably what I'm holding on to, a bit of hope that because he might still feel that way, he might come back. So I think in priority order then, we're saying that Matt and David would definitely do it. Schedules permitting. Capaldi, probably maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Eccleston, nah. I don't think that's.
And Jodie, so soon after leaving, would she? Well, she's pregnant. She's
exactly, mate. Yeah, it's probably. I would say she would probably turn up.
Yeah.
I would say.
Maybe she'll be on a screen like Hartnell in The Three Doctors, just jabbering on. Oh, God, that'd be awful.
Yeah, maybe. I did want to ask your opinion on this last thing before we wrap this up this bit. The one thing that we were absolutely gutted about, and when they did the 50th anniversary, my view on this is still exactly the same as it was then, is that I honestly wish that the classic Doctors were incorporated into the story.
Yeah.
And I know that Moffat said this numerous times when everybody quizzed him about it. He said, look, this is about celebrating Doctor Who and looking forward. It's not about bringing the past back into the... So I get that. I do understand. But I honestly feel like those guys should have been in the main story somehow. Because although that story is great, it does feel like just a special in the modern era. It doesn't feel like a proper celebration of Doctor Who. It feels like
not
it's
50 years.
No, it feels like a special for the modern Doctors with a little acknowledgement here and there of the past. It doesn't feel like a proper thing. So, do you think that they should incorporate them in for this one? Because although I wouldn't say they made up for it with the 5-ish Doctors reboot, which is very cool and funny, brilliant. and that was great. It still wasn't. They still weren't involved in the 50th storyline itself. Do you think they should include them in the 60th?
Yeah, I do actually. I do. I just think I agree with you. I don't think we've reviewed Day of the Doctor, have we? I think that's been bouncing around our schedule for ages. So I won't say too much about that. But yeah, I think it would be nice. I mean, we got that one scene, didn't we, at the end where they were all lined up together, which was a nice moment, but it wasn't them. It was, CGI and stuff. It would be nice to incorporate them, and it can be done. I mean, I do love the line that Moffat come up with David Bradley's Doctor in Twice Per Time, when he's like, "What's going on with your face? It's all over the place." And he said it was due to something or other, but it was a clever little throwaway line just to explain why he looked a bit different. And I think RTD might have done that with Peter Davison, didn't he, in the Children in Need thing? Oh, yeah. I think there's a reference to, why do I look different? Oh, it's the time distortions, making it. So you can get round it. You can just throw in a little throwaway line. And to be honest, I don't think the fans care. I don't think they care enough. They won't need a massive drawn-out explanation of why they look different. We won't care. If they're in it, we will just love it for what it is. Can I just quickly tell you my little theory?
Sure.
And this is what... So we were talking about the 60th down the pub after Phantom a couple of weeks ago. And we were saying, do you think Russell will bring back all the Doctors for 60th? And I had this idea of what I thought he might do. Or let's just say if he doesn't do this was what I would do. I was saying, because Russell wants to do all the, spin-offs and stuff like the Ace Adventures and Joe Grant and all that sort of thing. I was saying, why doesn't he do a 60th, bringing back... instead of all the classic Doctors, all the classic companions that because all the little extras they've done for the Blu-rays, like the one with Perry recently, where she goes off in the TARDIS and joins. Bring back some of these classic companions like Perry and Joe Grant and an Ace, and have a 60th with them. Obviously, Doctor's still in the background, but you could really focus on this strong, if you want, female companion. Well, it doesn't have to be females. You might want to bring Matt Turlow or Adric. Who knows? Bring some of the companions back, because to me, that's just as exciting, having some of the classic companions come back for an adventure, and the Doctor's sort of still being involved, obviously, but maybe they're, a bit like the Fourth Doctor in 5 Doctors trapped in a time scoop or something. You could still have the Doctors involved, but have the, some of the classic companions as the lead cast. I think that'd be really exciting. I would love that. So it's the Doctor Who. It's not like the Sarah Jane Adventures. It's not just a spin-off. It's a proper celebration of Doctor Who. The Doctors are involved, but we've brought back some absolutely belters of classic companions. Like you could have Zoe. I think could still work. As I said, Perry, Joe, Ace. It'd be brilliant, I think.
I agree, dude.
So that's what I thought he might be doing. I thought maybe that's because then he could do the spin-offs. He could, say, we've brought back the classic companions for a modern audience. We've introduced them in the 60th for anybody that wasn't aware of them. Now new viewers will see how cool Ace is. And here's their spin-off. And here's the Doctor Who going forward from the 60th. It'd be a good way of branching into the multiverse sort of thing.
Yes. No, I agree.
That's just
with that.
my theory. Yeah. I just wanted to get that on. I'm just copywriting that. So if Russell is listening, because we know he does.
Yep. He does listen every week.
He does listen, so I'm just putting a copyright on that. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Hey, Russell.
But yeah, I'd love to see that. I'd love to see some of the classic companions come back.
Yeah, same dude. Yeah, and I think it would be completely doable and plausible as well, because
It would.
they've already set up those little storylines already. So in the trailers for those Blu-ray box sets and whatnot, the first one where we saw Ace up in the Shard and she's running her own agency and stuff.
Charitable Earth. Or
Charitable Earth, yeah. And then you've got the recent one like you mentioned with Perry. And so the groundwork.
And you had Joe Grant and poor old Stuart Bevan. They did a great little. Sorry, not poor old, but obviously he just passed away. I mean, but you had Joe Grant, didn't you?
That's
with
right.
what was Stuart's character's name?
From the Green Death.
Yeah, but you had that cool little DVD extra that they did recently where they were fighting Daffodil Autons. I was thinking, this is great fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's definitely possible. Yeah.
Yeah, the groundwork's already been done. I mean, we were assuming that Russell would probably put his own spin on that, but certainly if we wanted to get a spin-off up and running, it's like, well, you know, the awesome guys that are producing those sets and doing the features, they've kind of given you an open door to walk in and do that stuff. And yeah, so I'm up for that, dude. I'd love that. That'd be cool.
He'd be the man to do it as well, because he knows those characters like inside out, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He'd be so good at writing the classic companions, I think.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
Yeah,
I'm up for that, dude. And
just a thought, Russell. Just a thought.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be the older generation of companions as well. They could bring back some people to accompany them. I'm thinking, what's her face from the first series of the Sarah Jane Adventures? What's the lead younger woman, younger girl in the Sarah Jane? She goes off to America though after series 1, I think.
Oh yeah, I don't know, I can't remember her name, but yeah, I know
who I mean.
That's taking it wide. Yeah, but I mean, you could bring in anybody, couldn't you? You wanted to. There's the amount of characters we've had in Doctor Who over the years. You could literally, the world's your oyster.
Yeah, you could bring back a few people
fun.
and do that.
Bring back K9, couldn't you?
K9, yeah.
You could have Clara crashing in a blimmin' diner TARDIS, although I wouldn't want that personally, but some people might.
I'm sure, you know what,
Amy
I'm pretty sure Russell and all the peeps at Bad Wolf have this kind of discussion every day.
Oh, definitely. They're down the pub chewing it over.
Yeah, to be a fly on the wall for those things. Exactly. Can you imagine? On the phone as well. On the phone to Sophie Aldred. Like, Sophie, thank you for agreeing to do this. It's been great. What? You can't do it now? Oh, Sophie, that's disappointing. Can you imagine how close we might come? Or have come in the past to those things? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Anyways, that's the Mail Online as part of the Daily Mail. We'll keep you updated on this completely legitimate story that's knocking about. We'll see what the insiders at the Sun newspaper have to say on this as we get closer and closer to it must be round the corner now, right? Some announcement for the next Doctor. It must be.
If they're filming soon, surely. Yeah. So
we'll keep you updated as always, dear Doctor Who listener. And that's going to do it for news. There's nothing else knocking about. So we will smash on to our review. What have we got this week, bud?
Yeah, so we're going back to the first Doctor era this time. With The Planet of the Giants.
The most dangerous moment is at the point of materialization. The most dangerous.
Close the door! What do you mean, close the door? Don't answer your boy. It's emergency. Close the door. They opened. Doors open before we properly materialized. But what does it mean? We have been reduced roughly to the size of an inch. An inch? I can see a huge leg coming.
You'd do anything to get what you want, wouldn't you?
It's nothing but death all around us.
The experiment must go through.
It gets more horrifying every moment. Grandfather!
Can get us back to normal size.
Oh, yes, of course I can, dear boy, yes.
Barbara!
Of course I can. I hope.
Coming to
Great
DVD
trailer.
Next summer. The Planet of Giants. I keep saying Planet of the Giants. There's no the, is there?
Oh, no, I keep saying that as well. Let me just cross out that.
Yeah, I keep doing that. Planet of Giants was first broadcast back on the 31st of October. So for Halloween, back in 1964. And it's a three-parter, finished up on the 14th of November of the same year. It stars William Hartnell, of course, as the first Doctor, with William Russell, Jacqueline Hill and Carol Ann Ford. And this was written by Lois Marks.
Lewis Marks.
Directed by Mervyn Pinfield with Douglas Camfield. I think Douglas Camfield, according to this, did a bit of work as a director on the third episode. And the synopsis is: the doors of the TARDIS open of their own accord just before it materialises, running out of control. On emerging, the travellers find the ship has been reduced in size and they are about the size of an inch. As tiny people, they stumble across a plot by a ruthless businessman, Forrester, and his misguided scientist colleague, Smithers, to launch a new insecticide called DN6. A product so destructive that it would kill not only those insects harmful to agriculture, but also those vital to it. Forrester is willing to commit murder to ensure the success of his business, as civil servant Arnold Farrow discovers to his cost. The criminals are brought to justice when the Doctor and his friends, hampered by the fact that Barbara is ill from the insecticide, tamper with the telephone in Smithers' laboratory, fueling the suspicions of the local telephone exchange operator, Hilda, who sends her police constable husband Bert to investigate.
Amazing.
Good old synopsis, that, actually. Nice and in depth. All right, dude, Planet of Giants then. What do you reckon?
Planet of Giants, yes. It has all the ingredients to be an absolute classic. And it's a great little storyline, actually. I mean, just the synopsis you read there, I think reads really well. So I think on paper, this sounds like a cracker. Somehow it doesn't quite translate to screen. And I think it's mainly due to the limitations of how things were made back then. It's just very stilted, and it seems to really sort of plod along, even though it's only 3 episodes long. If it had been 4, it would have really dragged. So I think it's a great story in terms of the actual storyline. I think it has really good stuff going on, and I did enjoy watching it, but it isn't great, if that makes sense. So it's kind of frustrating, because all the way through I'm thinking this has got some really good stuff in it and could be good, but it just isn't quite working. And again, I think it's just the limitations, because like when they every time they discover something, obviously the sets are so small. So, like, if there's a giant pod of seeds, they're literally right in front of them, but the actor has to act surprised, like they've just seen them. And so Susan will be like, Ian, look at all these ants, and they're right in front of her. But it's just, the limitations really show through. But I did enjoy it, really, especially the first episode. I love all the stuff in the TARDIS. Like, this is what I love about early Doctor Who. I love the fact that they, instead of just landing, getting out and going on an adventure, they sort of treat the TARDIS with respect. It's a machine that they can't quite control, and it gives this edge, this edge to it of danger. So they're checking the fault locator and all this stuff, and the doors have opened, so they've been shrunk, and something's gone wrong, and the screen's exploded. I was loving all that stuff in episode 1, and the giant worm and the matchbox that Ian gets in, and there's a lot to love in this. And maybe between the two of us, I can figure out why it doesn't quite work. Because I don't know. I'll be honest with you. Although I enjoyed it for the most part, I don't know why it isn't brilliant. I don't know what it is about it that just feels so flat. Because, I think it's a great story on paper. But I just don't know why it just doesn't translate to screen. So it's a bit of a middle of the road for me, mate. I do like it, but I feel like it could have been a heck of a lot better.
Okay. For some reason, I thought you were going to say that.
Yeah?
Yeah, just had a feeling. And I do agree with you, buddy, on this one. I think I thought that being a 3-parter, we wouldn't have any kind of, not as much sort of binge style watching lag that you get with some of the 4 and 6-parters. But there's something about it that just feels like the cast are trying really hard. That's one thing I will say. The cast are really into it, and when you see Ian pretending to be knocked around in the matchbox and all this stuff, they are trying. You can see that they're acting their socks off to try and portray the illusion of being small. You can tell, but the writing's just a little bit stagnant from start to finish. Unfortunately, it's a little bit like with some classic stories. It starts off pretty strong. That's the formula for most of classic Who, where it starts off strong. You have a bit of a mid story dip, and then it hopefully builds up again to a climax at the end. Not every story's like that, but that's like the typical sort of curve, I guess. But with this one, it just seems to be really flat right from the beginning. So I say right from the beginning. The first couple of minutes are kind of cool when they're landing the TARDIS, and that's all cool. And the Doctor's kicking off, and he's flustered, and Ian's like, he's frustrated as well. He's like, well, you never explain any of this stuff to us, Doctor. So how can we help? And how can we? And the Doctor's having none of it. He's like, hey, just get out of my way. Just trying to fix it. So that's really cool, like the opening couple of minutes. But once they come out into the garden and they see, all that stuff, it just, it's almost like they've been swept up in this sort of blackmail and murder story that's going on in the background. But that's very, very slow. I think that doesn't help, because those two characters throughout the bulk of the story, because we have the first character that we see, the guy, what's his name, Farrow. So Farrow and Forrester are having that discussion at the beginning, and even that at the beginning it's just really boring. It's like, we've got something to do with this experiment for DN6, and well, it should be all right, don't worry. Well, it needs to be because of my business and blah blah. And then you don't, he gets shot and that's it. So even that should be like a real kind of like, oh, what's going on here? But, the way that's been directed, and I think you mentioned earlier about the limitations of the way they could make this back in the day with the budgets and stuff. You could kind of accept that when you're dealing with the huge sets, the overscaled items like the plug hole and the ant and all that stuff.
The plug.
I can absolutely see it with that. Yeah, there is a limitation how you do that stuff. But the scenes with the fully grown people, the full size people, should I say, even like the telephone operator and the policeman, it's all just extremely static and slow and boring. Like there's no real substance to that part of the story, I'm afraid. For me, anyway. I mean, some people might like that, but yeah, like the antagonist is Forrester, right? He's the cutthroat business guy that's obviously, pumped a lot of money into the project, and he's desperate to see it through so that this sort of groundbreaking insecticide can be sold all over the world and he'll make millions and stuff. So you can see the motive right off the bat, but it's just the way that it just unfolds throughout the 3 episodes. It's just bored. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah, it shouldn't be though, should it? Because like just the idea of it, like the TARDIS being shrunk and being in the crack of a pavement, and the Doctor and the giant sinkhole plug and all that, and you got Ian in a giant matchbox, a very angry cat, a giant cat. It's all in there really. It's there's some really fun stuff going on. And I was surprised when you said that Douglas Camfield was involved as the director as well in episode 3. I think, was Mervyn Pinfield taken ill or something that he had to take over? But I'm just surprised because I think the direction is quite lacking. And Douglas Camfield is, I would consider, one of, if not the best director on Doctor Who. So I'm not sure how much involvement he has. That's why I was really surprised when you mentioned his name, because I wouldn't have associated him with this at all. It doesn't have any of his sort of flair or sort of, he often filmed from low angles and stuff like that. But yeah, so maybe he just came in to pick up or help out on episode 3. I don't know.
Yeah,
there's
probably
no flair to the direction in this, I have to say. But again, I'm not going to go too hard on Mervyn Pinfield because, what year was this? 1964?
64, yeah.
They've probably got great big bulky cameras that they're trying to shift around. The sets are probably tiny. So, they probably did the best they could. It's just that I was trying to put myself back in, when this first went out in 1964. If I was a child, I probably would have loved it. All the big sets and, and all that sort of stuff. It probably would have been quite magical, I think, back in 1964.
Yeah,
I would think, I would, because it's kicking off the second series of Doctor Who, so you want a really good story to kick off the next season, don't you? And I wouldn't say, as I said, it's not the best story by any means, but they probably thought it was going to be, I would think, with all the stuff that it's got going on.
Yeah, no, I agree, dude. It was, so I think Pinfield's, Mervyn Pinfield was just scheduled to work on something else. I think at the time.
Is it as simple as that?
Yeah, so I think he just had other things that he was scheduled to work on and couldn't do.
Oh, right.
Because it's meant to be a 4-parter originally. So I think his work was scheduled around doing 4 episodes. So when it was cut down to 3, he was like, okay, I'll do something else, but then it conflicted. So, yeah. So
was it cut down because they just realised there wasn't enough to keep it sustained for, or what?
Well, it was. It came from the BBC, dude, that they should knock it down to 3 episodes.
Right.
Because
it would have really struggled, wouldn't it, at 4?
Yeah. Somebody at the BBC, I think it was. I'll find his name in a second, or her name, probably at the time him. But I think he said, look, just this story doesn't work over 4 parts because the last one was meant to be called The Urge to Live, and it was. And then episode 3 was meant to be titled Crisis. And then when they were editing it together from the stuff that they had worked on already, they just said, look, it's just not going to work. With the story is already filling up 3 parts quite nicely with what we've edited together. So they just said, let's do 3 parts instead of 4. So because of that, there was a little bit of a conflict going on with times and stuff. So Douglas Camfield came in, but that is weird though, like you say, because you would have thought that the one that he directed, because he's a good director. We reviewed a few of his stories already.
Oh, he's a brilliant director.
Very, very cool. So maybe it was just the fact of, I'm playing a complete guessing game with this, but maybe it was a case of, okay, well, the story so far has been done in this way and this style. If I come in and do a completely different face about turn, it's going to look sort of a little bit disconnected from the other 2 parts. So I'll just direct it and keep it going as it's been done so far. I'm guessing that's what's happened.
That would make sense.
It does make sense. It doesn't feel like a Douglas Camfield episode, that one.
No, I read a really good book on Douglas Camfield not that long ago, actually. I can't remember. This was probably mentioned in it, but I can't remember his involvement at all in this one. I was just thinking, if this was a missing story, though, and you only had some screenshots, this would be one you would think, oh God, look at this, the Doctor and Susan in a giant plug, and oh, look at that giant ant, and oh my God, there's Barbara with a wasp that's huge and she's terrified. In picture form, this would look really exciting, and if it didn't exist, it'd be one of those stories that you would, probably be top of the wanted list, wouldn't it? Oh, we've got to find Planet of Giants because look at it, it looks amazing. So, I don't know, again, the visuals are pretty cool, but yeah, just the direction, I suppose. But then again, as I said, the sets are probably tiny. It's probably more down to they did the best they could with what they had, I suppose. Yeah, but it really shows at times, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I would have loved that, as a or even an adult back in the 60s, and seeing, we don't have the same, they didn't have the same luxury as we do now. So, they didn't put out trailers, and we didn't see still shots from the sets or behind the scenes in magazines or anything like that too much. But if you had have seen them, like the giant ant or the wasp or something, or that, when he gets killed near the beginning, the character Arnold Farrow, he gets killed by Forrester, and you just see his dead face basically, and then Ian looks tiny.
The giant, yeah.
So that stuff would have looked amazing, and you would have thought, oh, this has got to watch this. It looks great. But the execution in live action, I think, It is cool. Don't get me wrong. They did a reasonably good job of it. You can just tell because I think even if you had a production that had more money than Doctor Who, it still would have struggled at the time just because of the year in, the time period in which you're making this stuff. So
I have to say, the second cliffhanger's good though, isn't it? When they're in the sink and they let the water out. I thought that was quite a cool little cliffhanger. What was the thing that was making you laugh that you put on Twitter last night? What was the line? 'Cause I thought that was quite
Doctor,
fun.
Yeah, they'd made all that effort and work to climb up the pipe and out the plug hole.
Yeah,
and I think Susan was screaming for Ian and Barbara, and they, they're up on the top on the work surface and they're down in the sink, and they made all that effort, and then the Forrester and Forrester and Smithers, sorry, terrible. They come in and right, need to scatter and hide, and so the Doctor's like, right, back down the plug hole, and, and because bless him, Hartnell, he was obviously knocking on a bit, as we know at this point in his career, but just to see him trying to scramble down the plug hole and climb back out, and it was just that line, quickly Susan, back down the plug hole. I was cracking up at that, but that I was laughing at it, but that's the only thing I could think of once I'd finished watching the story. I could only have his voice in my head. I could just hear him down the plug hole. And it was funny, wasn't it? Because when they're in the little overflow section, it's like a little lesson on plumbing, isn't it, in the UK plumbing. It's like, well, this won't do any good because the water will just come back up the overflow pipe and we'll get washed away. So there was things like that. I mean, story-wise, dude, it's really simple, right? As a story, we've just got a problem with the TARDIS. Upon materialization, it's gone, bit of a hiccup, and it's shrunk them all. Simple as that. And they're back on Earth. The first time since An Unearthly Child, they're back on Earth, and it just revolves around this, this dude, Forrester, who's killed someone and is about to kill someone else because his business plan project is about to go up in smoke. So the story-wise, it's very, very simple. In terms of performances, dude, what did you think to the full size peoples? Because we had a bit of a film legend, as in the role of Forrester. So Alan Tilvern, although he did a few bits on TV back in the day, back in the 60s and 70s, he was in Dad's Army and Poldark, and had a little stint in the Sweeney for a couple of episodes. There was his film career was huge. I mean, right back to 1946 when his first film came out, and then he's just done about 50 odd films. It's just so many films, and most notably you would have recognized him as his very last film role as R.K. Maroon in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So that's what most people would have known him for, but loads and loads and loads of films. So a bit of is
that his last film role, was it? Blind?
1988, because I think he died in, when did he unfortunately leave us? He died
2003.
in 2003, so I think he retired.
Must have.
Yeah, so anyway, he's a bit of a legend, dude, in sort of TV and film. But what do you reckon to him in this? Because I would say that him, alongside Reginald Barrett, who played Smithers, and Frank Crawshaw, who played Farrow, they were okay. But I do get the feeling, because I was quite bored, maybe it was because I was quite bored with those scenes, I felt they were a little bit, what's the best way to describe it? When you see people audition for roles and they've got the script and they're holding it in front of them and they're just reading the script. I felt like a lot of it was like that. There was only the odd time where Smithers lost his beep a little bit, a couple of times. But that was it. The rest of the time it was, it felt very much like, I've put too much into this business. Well, don't worry, the experiment will go ahead. Well, it better do, otherwise there'll be trouble. Well, why did you kill him? You didn't have to kill him. There was no dynamic in how they were delivering their lines. It was like they were just reading the script back and forth. I don't know about you, but...
Yeah, no, it's exactly how I felt. I feel that's why the story isn't as good as it could be, actually. I think they kind of let the side down a bit. I don't know why their performance is so flat. There's no flair to any of those three at all. And like you said, that guy, obviously done a lot of acting in his time. It's not as if he's a sort of unknown that they've dragged off the street. Give this a go. And maybe they just weren't into it. Because I just don't feel like they're giving any gusto. They haven't taken apart, and grabbed it and gone with it. Just like you said, it just feels like they're reading their lines, and it's all, so page 3 now, is it? Okay. There's no go to their performance with any of those 3, I don't think. I mean, Smithers, maybe there's a little bit more than the other 2, like when there's a bit where he's sort of being blackmailed and he gets a little bit cross, but I think the 3 of them let the side down. And their scenes are boring, and they shouldn't be. They, like you said earlier, there's the scene where Forrester shoots Farrow, or is it the other way around? I keep getting their names mixed up.
That's right.
It should be exciting. It should be like almost like gangster movie style, territory. But it's just, even that is boring. So I think they let the side down a bit. I think the main cast, like you said right at the start of the review, are giving it as the best they can. They're really trying to make the most of everything, and I think the scenes with them in, for the most part, are good. But anytime it goes back to these 3 or 2, depending on who's still alive, it does get boring. It does.
A little bit. I mean, in some ways, it's kind of expected. They're not the stars of the show. They're not supposed to be the exciting part of the story, right? The exciting bit is meant to be our main cast dealing with the hurdles of trying to navigate around being the size of an inch. That's the exciting bit. So these guys, they shouldn't be the main draw of the story, but you would still expect them to be a little bit more, I don't know, not necessarily chewing the furniture like we have with some people, but at least making it a bit gripping, like what's going to happen with these guys, instead of just,
he's got a gun. There's none of that, is there? Just sort of pulls the gun out. There's none of that. Surely he's not going to shoot him. Oh my God, he has. There's none of that at all.
Yeah, and it's a good reason why the story was rejected the first time round. Sidney Newman rejected it and said...
Did he?
Well, for 2 main reasons. The first one was, it's just going to be technically too difficult to do at this time. And the other reason was, he felt like there was just no character development. He felt that the characters just didn't go anywhere. And you can completely see why. He tossed it back first time and said, look, there's just no... And I've no idea, but maybe they did rewrite that a little bit to try and make them a little bit more, have a bit of a journey throughout the story. But still, not exciting stuff, dude, with those guys anyway, in terms of cast and performance and stuff. So that was a bit of an okay. And also the climax with those guys wasn't great either.
No, there's no big payoff.
Old Hilda and Bert, the Hilda on the telephone exchange.
Oh yeah, that scene as well, which is like, see, it's the same voice and all that. Again, it's more comical than it's supposed to be, I think.
Yeah, and the thing is, that was something I was very surprised about with Alan Silvan, because just putting a hanky over the telephone, but talking in your regular voice doesn't really do much to mask or change your...
No.
And try and appear as a different voice. That just didn't... I was really confused at that. He just popped a hanky over and spoke in almost the same way, just a little bit slower.
Yeah.
So you could tell a mile off it was the same guy. But, she has to involve her husband, who's the local Bobby on the beat, and she's like, look, I'm sure it's the same person. And he gets his ear to it, and he's like... So those two, they provided a bit of unintentional comic relief, I suppose. But even at the end, when she says, right, I'll send someone over, and Bert turns up, and nobody really gets arrested in like any sort of dramatic fashion. It's just like, right, we need to have a word about what's going on, and that's it. And then we cut to the main dude. So
yeah, I get it. I mean, it's. I only watched this last night, and again, I can't even really remember the end. It just kind of that storyline's over. It does kind of wrap up a bit quick, doesn't it?
Yeah. What did you think to? Let's talk about Susan first. What did you think to Carol Ann Ford as Susan? Because we normally have a situation where she doesn't do much, and other times she's very cool. But what about this one for you then?
Well, yeah, I don't think she's a bit screamy and whiny in it. She didn't really do a lot in this one either, really. Yeah, I mean, I think I was surprised it's Barbara that actually twists her ankle in this story. I don't know if they changed it in the script and said, oh no, let's let Barbara fall over this week because you've done it every other week. But yeah, I don't think... I mean, we're getting to the end of Caroline Ford will leave in the next story anyway, won't she? Is Dalek Invasion Earth next? Yeah. So she's sort of probably checked out a bit, I think. Because I just didn't really feel much, she doesn't get much to do. There's a couple of good scenes with Ian towards the start with the giant ant. But yeah, she mostly just screams at dead props being thrown at her. I'd forgotten about the poisonous seed story element as well, because by the time we meet the third dead animal, a giant dead animal, I was thinking in my head, oh, is it just because they can't animate the props so everything's dead? And then of course you find out that the reason that all the animals are dead, which does make sense, and I like that part of the story, the fact that the weave the two things together. But yeah, Caroline Ford, there's nothing stand out that I can think of from her in the story. I can't think of anything Susan does really. Like the other two I can sort of think of moments, but can barely remember her in it. Am I missing anything? I honestly can't think of much with her.
Not really. We had there was a cool conversation in the beginning where Ian and Barbara are trying to find out from her why the TARDIS has played up, because the Doctor doesn't really want to say, and he's walked off with the huff as he normally does, and that was okay. But she's sort of typical Susan. She's a bit sheepish and doesn't want to go into too much detail. And that's it really for the rest of it. Yeah, you're right. She screams a few times when she sees the ant and some other bits, and yeah, so she's not terrible, but...
Yeah, I just can't think of any moment from her at all. I can think of ones for Ian and Barbara and the Doctor, but I can't think of anything about Susan. I only watched this last night, so yeah, she didn't stand out, I'm afraid. Yeah,
same. What about William Russell and Jacqueline Hill then? Because they both had a decent enough go on this one.
I think so, yeah.
For different reasons, yeah. I think Ian's doing... in a way, they kind of just threw him into a bucket of expectation, I think, with some stories. He just expects him to be the muscle because the Doctor clearly can't do it. There's a good scene where they've put this sort of little plan together where they're going to light the Bunsen burner on the desk with the match.
Oh, yeah. That's fun.
Which is great. And then he's got the match and the Doctor's like, put your back into it kind of thing. And he's like, yeah, but you tried carrying this. So that you normally expect him to get stuck in with fisticuffs or doing that stuff, which is okay, and he looks after Barbara fairly well and stuff. And then Barbara's character, she touches the insecticide on the seeds and stuff with the hanky, and she gets a bit poorly and stuff. So for different reasons, they had a fairly decent outing. But would you say it's expected performances from those two?
I think they always deliver. I love Ian and Barbara. I think they're brilliantly played by William and Jacqueline, and it's not like a standout story for either of them, but I still think they're both really good in it. And Ian Chesterton, William Russell, just does his thing, and I think he does it well in the story. I really like, actually, coming back to some of the plot points that I think do work in this story. I really like the idea that Shrunk Barbara touching the insecticide, her body can't cope with it, and the only way her body will be able to cope with it is she's made full size. I think that's a really wonderful, simple idea, and again, it adds a bit of danger, a bit of a bit of excitement to the story, and I think we should have had more of that. They should have played up a bit more to some of those ideas, because that's a good one, isn't it? It's like, oh my god, if we don't get Barbara back to normal size soon, she's going to die. There's a bit of peril there. So I thought that was a good little idea that her body can't cope with it because she's been shrunk. But yeah, I think those two are great, mate. I love this TARDIS team. I mean, even Susan. I mean, Caroline Ford, not her fault. She very often doesn't get much to do. I think the writers just don't know what to do with her most of the time. But I really like this TARDIS team. So even on a story like this, when it's a bit, meh, I think they still carry it enough for me to enjoy it. But mainly Ian and Barbara, I have to say.
Yeah, and that's fair enough, dude. Yeah, I completely agree with that, man. Yeah, they always deliver.
I love them. Yeah.
Yeah, for Susan, it's not her fault. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's just sometimes she doesn't get much to do. within the story. So what else can she do?
No, and the best thing is that those two still carry this nice, almost parental thing with Ian and Barbara and Susan, don't they? They're still the teachers looking after Susan. She's like the younger sort of character. So I like that theme carries through, that they're always, making sure she's okay and taking care of her. So they do feel a bit like a family in that sense, and I like that.
Yes. No, I agree, dude. Yeah. What about old Hartnell then? So he's in it for all three. Didn't bugger off on holiday on this one. And a couple of little fluff lines here and there, but nothing major. I don't think he was
too bad in this one.
Yeah, there was a couple of little, but yeah, nothing too bad at all. Yeah, he's and I like it. We've mentioned this a few times where it's funny when he loses his rag with Ian sometimes, and and he's a bit flustered and stuff, and yeah. So in this one, you're right, dude. It's one of those things where the ingredients are there, but just nothing shining out. Like, I can't really remember. I remember a couple of scenes, but if you ask me in a week's time, like, what was a standout scene with the Doctor in Planet of Giants, I'd be like, not quite sure. I'd have to go and watch it. So, again, not terrible, but not standout. No,
there isn't anything really standout. I do think he's great in it, though. I absolutely love Hartnell in this. Any scene he's in, I just think he's just wonderful on screen. And I love the bit at the start where he's really kicking off about the TARDIS going wrong and, wow, check everything and get out of the way and all this stuff. Because what's lovely about that is you think, oh, he's a grumpy old so-and-so, and this is season 2, so Barbara and Ian have kind of got used to him a little bit by now and they don't take it too personally. But then what I love about it is that he then does turn around, and there's a lovely short scene right in episode 1 where he apologises to Barbara and Ian, doesn't he? Yeah. He says, "Oh, I'm sorry. I was getting a bit. I may have been a bit rude there, and sorry about that." And I thought, that it's lovely the way the show, every now and again, they show this lovely softer side to the Doctor. And actually, I think in episode 3, I'm not sure, but there's another scene later on between the Doctor and Barbara. And they have a really lovely relationship, that the character's just the way that he's so irascible, but she doesn't take it personally. And he realises he's being rude, and he'll say to her, "Oh, I'm sorry about that, my dear, and don't worry, it's just the way I am," sort of thing. There's a couple of nice scenes like that in this story. But yeah, I do. I really like the first Doctor relationship with Barbara, that she... when he's going off on one, she'll just roll her eyes because she knows that's just what he's like.
Yeah, there are a few scenes like that where a bit of eye rolling going on and stuff. But yeah, there are lovely little scenes when...
There's a warmth, isn't there, between the characters? Yeah.
Defo, yeah. And I think Hartnell's Doctor is known, for being like the old grouchy.
I love him,
from time to time, but that's
more
cool.
I watch him.
Yeah.
When he's going up that cliff edge as well, and he's like, "Get careful!" or he's getting all cross, and he's, "Careful, my dear!" When he's coming, actually, I think it's when he's climbing down, he's getting all cross, and I can't remember what he says, but goodness me, I just love him. I think he's irascible, but really charming underneath. And again, it adds to the alien element of the Doctor. I think that's what I love about the first Doctor, is I do feel like he's not the same as the rest of them. He is. He is alien, and I like that. I think that's the thing that I think is unappreciated about William Hartnell, is that when he played the Doctor, he really got the fact that he was an alien. You don't feel like it's William Hartnell playing. He's not sort of. I know you love Tennant, and I love Tennant, but there were criticisms that he was a bit too human at times because of the way he was written. But with Hartnell, you really get the feeling he's from another planet, and that's what I love about him.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree on that one, dude. Yes. What about what do you think about old Dudder's music then? Old Dudley Simpson.
Was it Dudley Simpson?
Yeah.
Because I didn't like the music in this. I actually found it quite distracting. I thought it was stock music because it didn't fit at all. I didn't think a lot of the time. I'm surprised it was Douglas because to me it just didn't feel like it when it enhanced the story at all. I felt like they'd just gone and found a load of stock music and shoved it over certain scenes because it even seems to fade out and cut quickly. So I'm surprised to hear it was Douglas. Yeah, I normally love his stuff. Yeah, I didn't like the music much, mate. I found it was a bit out of place.
Yeah, I think a good sign that the music was good in any episode, whether it's classic or modern Doctor Who, is if you hum along afterwards, or you have it in your mind and you know the theme from a certain story. If it's not stock music. But this one, I can't actually remember any of the music anyway, which is surprising because, yeah, old Dad, he's normally pretty good.
I normally like him.
Yeah, but this one, I can't even remember that much music in it anyway.
It was a bit bombastic, but it seemed like if they sort of did something that wasn't really even that big a gesture, there'd be like a big fanfare music to it. But da-da-da, someone's just walked on the set. It just didn't really fit, I didn't think.
No, agreed. Anything else on your notes, bud?
No, I don't think so. No, I've just got giant cat written down for some reason. No, I don't think I've got anything else to say on this one.
All right then, bud, let's go to the scores. I think it's me to go first. I'm going to give this a 6.5.
Yay, snap. Same.
Oh, really?
Yeah, same, because I did enjoy it overall. I just don't think it's that great. And it is frustrating that it isn't as good as it could have been.
Right.
I'd like to read the book, actually. I have to dig out the Target novel, because I bet it's a good read. I think the storyline's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah 6.5 from me as well, mate.
Yeah, who did the novelisation? Was it Dix? Was it Terence Dix?
Probably. I think it was Terence Dix. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That'll be.
Oh, well, it will be.
Yeah.
Don't know if I've got it. I don't think I have, actually. Now I'm looking at the cover. I have to have a look. Anyway,
he would have fleshed out a bunch of story elements.
Oh, I could imagine he would have done a good job with this one. Yeah.
Okie dokie. So 6.5s all round then from us. What did our listeners think? We had a few over on the social. So Will Sanger says it's not very good.
Oh.
The main cast are strong, particularly Ian and Barbara. However, it's a story that relies upon its gimmick. It's just 3 episodes of mucking about and overcoming minor, uninteresting obstacles. But beyond that, the central plot fails to be interesting to me. 3 out of 10.
Yeah, okay, 3.
3.
Wow.
Right, our writer Jordan says, an okay story. The cast are excellent, but the plot is a little thin and far too ambitious for a 60s budget. But you have to appreciate that the can-do attitude the production side has here. It's not quite Ant-Man, but it's on its way there, a fun enough romp. Yeah, that's fair enough, Jordan. Doctor Who Home says it's a lovely idea and wonderfully realised. There's magic to this one that only this era can show and deliver on. The stakes are small enough, and thankfully the story is 2 at 3 parts. It's slightly ploddy. Some great cliffhangers, 7 out of 10.
Okay, 7.
Chippy T says, I like the uniqueness of this. We've had the classic enemy, the historicals, the space-bound stories, but here we have something completely new. The peril isn't great, but the effects are good for the time, enjoyable, but you'd only revisit on a watch-through. 6 for me.
6, okay.
It's a good way of putting it, yeah. And the Courier of Who says, I love the concept and the story. I enjoy the vast amount of fun that it's had and is clear to see. It's one of my fave TARDIS teams, a solid 7. Which is good.
7.
And lastly, on Twitter, Edward Galuli says, an enjoyable adventure with good sets and all the regulars on form, a 6.5.
Okay, that was 6.5. Cool.
Yes. And just a couple over on Facebook, we had another one of our writers, Harry, says, ambitious as hell for a 60s story. I love its ridiculous concepts. Oh no, how will they ever escape that giant Mog? Yes, the giant cat was a bit...
It doesn't do anything, does it? I think that's the thing, isn't it? You get something really cool and then nothing happens.
Yeah.
And
Charlie Turner says, a pretty good take on being shrunk down style concepts, even if it is a little bit silly in some areas. Did both of you guys know that this was intended to be the very first Doctor Who story in history before the idea of Coal Hill Skull and cave people got pushed forward?
No, didn't know that.
It is just too bad that episode 3 of this story is a mix of the original episode 3 and the original episode 4 together, that really, as episode 4 could have been in its own episode altogether. So it feels crammed and something is a bit wrong, especially how the cast solved the problem. It is like that it's been rushed to save time and money in the filming schedule that the story had. Nothing terrible though, I just wish it had ended better. But Charlie gives it an 8 still, which is good.
An 8, okay. No, I didn't know that. It's interesting.
Yeah, I knew that they filmed this within the first block of the first series, but decided to hold it back for the opener of Series 2. I didn't realise it was going to be the very, very first ever story day. It's interesting. Yeah, thank you very much, Charlie, and to all of our other listeners over on the socials. It's great to have your views, and always, I think average on this one's probably about a 6.5 or a 7, dude.
Yeah,
I would say. So next week, Bud, what we're reviewing?
Yeah, so we'll be back to Torchwood Children of Earth next week, and we're on day 4. Day 4 of 5, so it's like the penultimate episode of this series. So let's see where that takes us.
Indeedy. Yeah. Okay, day 4. I can't wait to watch this one, dude. We've been loving Torchwood Children of Earth so far, so we'll see how this goes. It should be good.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it as well. Yeah, I'm liking it.
Yes. Okay, let's wrap that indeed for episode 343.
Alrighty.
Thank you once again for checking out the Big Blue Box podcast. That was episode 343. It was great to have you listening, as always. And a 6.5 on Planet of Giants. So yeah, we have got another first Doctor story coming up. A little bit of a spoiler for you in a couple of months' time, so we will see how the review goes for that one. But obviously way before then, next week, as Adam said, our review story is back to Torchwood with Children of Earth and Day 4. So get your Blu-rays and your DVDs watched, and I'm pretty sure it's still on iPlayer here in the UK at least, so get that watched, because we'll be asking for your thoughts and your reviews as always. In the meantime, make sure you follow the podcast in your fave podcast app, because we put a show out every Friday, so don't miss out on those, or you can listen to them on the website, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. On the website, you can also read the reviews and articles from our awesome writing team, as well as click those links to go off to the socials. We're on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. We chat plenty of Doctor Who throughout the week, so come and get involved there. And we have a free Discord server. So link on the website, jump in there and chat Doctor Who with plenty of other Doctor Who fans. Also, remember to check out Adam's channel over on YouTube. It is, of course, The Geek's Handbag.
The Geek's Handbag, yeah. Lots of Doctor Who vids on there. Go and have a look.
Go and check it out. Yeah, get comfy, grab a brew. Go and do all that. And Adam's on the socials too, under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, so go and check him out on there as well. Indeed. Until next week, take care of yourself. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember,
Aaaaaaaallons-y.